Thank you. Let's call to order the Personnel Committee today, and I would like to first order of business. I'd like to nominate Jerry as chair. You good with that? Sure. Karen, are you good with Jerry chairing these?
I can't really understand what you're saying very well.
Okay. I nominated Jerry to be chair of this committee.
Okay, what is the name you're nominating?
Jerry Blackwelder.
Okay,
So are you okay with that?
yes,
Okay, great. Take it away, Jerry.
You already did call the order, right?
Yeah.
So roll call? Did we already do that? Oh, okay. I
Chair
think we have
Blackwelder.
roll call
Chair Blackwelder.
here.
Director Ferlito.
here,
Director Campbell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Public comment, communications, anyone wishing to address the board on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. The public may comment on any other matter listed on the agenda at the time that the matter is being considered by the board. For information about submitting public comments in writing in advance of the meeting, please see the meeting information section of this agenda. Is there anybody out there?
I shouldn't.
We'll go to discussion, action. And 1 is election of committee chair, and that's me. 2 is approve November 2nd, 2022 committee meeting minutes. Sure, I haven't even seen the minutes. I don't know what they are.
I move approval.
No,
Or acceptance.
you know what they are.
I read through them this morning.
So the minutes consist of 1, approve October 5th personnel committee minutes. 2, discuss MCWD portable water supply opportunity and interest in renewable energy. 3, market-based rate adjustment. 4, discuss draft white paper document for ReGen Monterey. 5, discuss paperless board package process, and 3 is general manager communications. We have a motion. Jason,
Yeah, to accept those minutes.
is there a second? Me?
Here, you can second it.
Okay, I'll second it.
It wasn't at that meeting.
Okay, so roll call.
Chair Blackwelder.
Yes.
Director Campbell.
Yes.
Director Ferlito.
The issue was near she offered to stay.
And it's yes, it's safe. Okay, stay.
Okay, so now we're in there. 3 is update on budget planning. You public day.
Yes, that is me. I'd like to just, that we're beginning our process in budget planning, a few items to review that came out of finance as well. That I thought were important, really soliciting any feedback from this committee to see if there's anything that we're lacking as we start entering our budget process for the 23-24 fiscal year. One of the items that we brought up was the tip fee. And we will work on what that percentage of increase that we look forward to going forward for the tip fee. It's relatively important that we start working on that one item in particular first, mainly because Pebble Beach Community Services District uses a tax roll to put these increases on. And they will start their process in April. So we would like to get down to some of the items that are going to be in the budget and the process of a price adjustment at the same time. So looking at the tip fee and the tip fee component, we do know that CPI is trending about 4.5%. It looks like it's trending down, but I think there's some other pieces of inflation that really affect our operation directly. One of them is going to be fuel, the fuel component, and the receiving of assets and the inflation on cost. Forklifts, machineries, and all that stuff. Because of metals and the cost of precious metals going up, we're seeing a significant increase in some of the assets purchases. So we'll look at what the TIP component will be. We're not there yet, but these are items and components that we want to address pretty soon here. The other one is capital equipment expenses that we can foresee. Capital projects that we can foresee. We did have at the finance meeting some phase 3 for module 7 that's coming down the pipeline. We want to look at the post-closure reserve that we talked about in the past, and do we have an opportunity to do that going into this next budget? Both finance and personnel committee have played, and the board played a big role in creating reserve for other items along the way, which are important for the organization to self-sustain itself and moving into the future. We also have negotiations with the LAC unit that will come this year, and so that will be entered into the budget. We have a couple approaches that we're looking at, and some of them is the living income for Monterey County to be taken consideration along with CPI for this unit. It's the lowest income earners in our organization, so I think it's an opportunity for us to take the right steps in the right direction in support of these employees. Will be an item that we'd like to include in there as well. And we've been asked to really look at from the finance committee to dovetail into what we're doing with budget is the 5-year forecasting materials that we can receive. And we really looked at the big 3 in materials. We have about 20 different categories of material that come across gate. But there's the 3 big drivers. One is the composting or the green waste. The other is recycled material, and then the landfilling material of solid waste are the big 3 items that will play the biggest role. So we'll capture 5-year forecast of the projections of material, and then also try to get to a material amount, material source, and by type for these items to be brought back to the board as we review the budget in the future. At this point, I'll ask Helen or Garth to comment on any other items that we want to be paying close attention to in the budget, and then any considerations from this committee for us to carry forward as we start preparing our budget.
I don't think I really have much to add. We just, as you know, in the last budget process, if you saw anything that we wanted us to really dig into more, especially in the areas of personnel, just let us know.
I don't have anything else to add. I think they summed it up pretty well. We just basically want to be aware of, get the thinking of what's the tip beat approach we should be looking at for next year. We had 7% increase last year. Be looking at 3% this year, 5% CPI or something else.
And I think one of the things that we've seen with Garth and Helen and the rest of the leadership team is really looking at the opportunity to bridge our gaps in either revenue generation and our expenses. When I first got here, I was reviewing, how big are the missed margins from revenue and from expenses, the revenue reduction, just to really get to a point where we can see ourselves at plus or minus 5% off the budget. Really shows a knowledgeability around what we're doing and what we're projecting for the next fiscal year. It's very difficult to do, but I think as we have gained momentum with one another, that we are really starting to wrench down discrepancies in the budget. That why are we blowing revenue out if we really knew it existed, or why are we blowing our revenue reduction out if we already know what's kind of forecasted in there. We should be a lot closer, and I think that's an approach that we'll take this year as we start meeting with managers and supervisors and department for their areas. Really button down our budget. I think last year's is a great result of narrowing down some items and really getting to the reserves, capital reserves, and things that we wanted to see that were important for us to endeavor in while we have the opportunity to do so. And we've got all kinds of projects that are coming down this year that are coming through. We have the medium voltage project, we have the cast project. When that delivery comes, we will see significance around it, but I think forecasting in our capital projects can give us a better idea of when those are gonna rescind and how much money it's gonna cost us. At this point, that's all I have.
I have a question. You can go ahead.
To stick with personnel, are we looking at are we forecasting some major increases in personnel costs, like workman's comp or
No,
health
actually, I think,
insurance or anything like that?
what I've seen more recently, and Lorena will probably provide an update soon on our last year's workers' comp stats, but that we've seen great improvement. Our EMOD has decreased. And so, obviously, the EMOD trails 3 years, so don't know when we'll start to see those, but you haven't received the invoice for the workers' comp yet. We usually get it in March. And so,
That's good to know. Then just two more kind of general.
I just want to have a response for you. There is, we still haven't hired for our ops manager position. It's been about 7 to 8 months. I think we're at that point where it'll be in our best interest to start looking to fill that position. And one that what it'll do directly is it'll free up Jay to do more director work than ground level work. But he's done a phenomenal job understanding the nuances of landfilling, roads, weather. I think one of the first comments I received is you're not gonna know what a landfill is like to run until it rains, and we got a whole lot of that. So I can say I knocked that off in my first year, got our first big rainstorm, and the results of it has been people standing up and making sure that we're being compliant, and what work do we have ahead of us that's still in the future, and we're preparing for that. But I think we will be looking to fill that role of the ops manager position in the near future.
Okay, so that'll be a salary that we're not, whatever.
We've been saving on, it's in the budget, we've been saving on it, but really, it's been really looking at the other components of the operation to see, are they maximizing communication or not maximizing? And I think at this point, we can assertively say we want the ops manager role to be filled to create some bandwidth for Jay as well.
And, two things that are just, I don't necessarily need a response now, but just Leo, historically, I think he was one who pushed for diversity and revenue. And I just want to keep that in mind and not keep ratcheting up the tip fees, and maybe once we get this medium voltage thing online, that will be another source of revenue every times money. Let's get that up. And then what's the other, just for our education, this in the distance, I would love to get a periodic update on what our anticipated years of space we have left. I feel like it's coming down slowly, and just so we can keep an eye on it every time we get new people delivering here. We're shrinking that up until once we get some results on the new compaction and building software, we'll know that'll hopefully bring us back up a few years, but we'll see.
Yeah, and also if there's any new technology that's coming down the road, that would, increase the years that we have out there. I also wanted to say something about the tip fees. I remember a while ago, we had the lowest tip fees anywhere. Everybody else was much higher than that. Are we still in that same thing, or are we starting it? And that was one of the things that we want to diversify so that we could provide our customers a benefit of having low tip fees.
Yeah, that has been the philosophy here, is to keep our tip fees the lowest, right, as you said, and we probably still are. What we probably need is kind of a refresh study from HF&H, where they can gather all the information from all the other landfills in the Bay Area. And that way we can see exactly where we are. But the last time they did it, yes, we were the lowest, and we probably still are, because our tip fees have not gone up really all that much.
If I can take on to
Yeah.
that. So Garth was actually referring to two aspects of cost. the tip fee at the landfill, and that's a published rate. That one can find, at any time, for a particular facility. And then the other was more the customers' costs and their rates and how their rates of collection services and disposal services included compared to other jurisdictions, and that's the HF&H study. So I think that was a great recommendation. That really gives the better picture. The tip rate is not
doesn't directly affect most of our constituents. It's the, most of our constituents pay for the garbage pickup at their.
exactly. The 7% budget or increase in budget last year that the district for the current year, excuse me, adopted it had an 80 cents per month impact on a Carmel resident. And that was the highest amount in the 9-member agency. Going back to published tip fees, it's not self-evident if that really has meaning. John Smith Road has a lower tip fee than the district, but they have very limited service. We have multi services here. Salinas Valley Recycle last year reduced their tip fee to an amount that's less than the district's. However, they collect about $90 a ton for the services they provide, while the district is collecting $60 a ton and providing more a variety of services.
I think that my question is more philosophical. That knowing everybody's tip fee on the whole peninsula, even though it is a little part of it, I used to think that my water bill was a small part, was $15 a month. I was looking at my, $50-something for my water. It's like, the heck happened here? So even those little things can grow up the budget. Just want to make sure that we, our philosophy, like you stated, is that we try to be as resourceful as we possibly can, so that those benefits can be passed on wherever they can. So that was my only point about that. So, I have another question. Oh. Now that I can't talk, which is one of the reasons I don't like to run meetings, is my inability to talk sometimes. Adding the standard of living cost that we have here in the peninsula, to include that with a CPI. What is that number that you imagine that would be?
So, we have a closed session item, where we want to get into more detail in regard to the district's approach for the next round of negotiations, and to get your input and guidance on, what are your priorities and how would you like us to approach this next round of negotiations. So we can provide a little bit more specifics on what we're thinking in the next item in closed session.
Check with Karen and see if she has a question and how much time she has left.
I have a meeting at City Hall that starts at noon.
Great, all right. So I guess my point is costs have been increasing all over the place. I can't imagine being a dishwasher in San Francisco. You'd have to live in Stockton and commute. It's just, it's just crazy. But to try to keep up with that and just to also create a benefit for the community. I don't know, so that's all I was thinking, is that we take that into consideration. I think we all would love to see everybody have the highest standard of living that we could possibly provide, but we're also, our number one obligation is to the customers, so.
We have to take that in a balance approach. We want to be fiscally responsible, but we also want to do the best we can for the employees.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying that it might be a little bit out of reach, the way the things that us living around here is crazy. It just really is. But no, I appreciate it. So anyway,
I would like to make a comment about that. In Carmel, everyone thinks we're the wealthiest community around, but we have many people who are house rich, but actually live on very narrow income. We have a lot of retired people whose houses have inflated, but they're not getting any more money. And as the rates go up and up, and even some businesses have complained. And I think one of the things that's difficult for people is to understand the difference between hauler costs and the landfill costs and how they combine together and impact their overall costs. So, any kind of education about why it costs more to have, tipping and where those costs are coming from are very helpful when people want to understand the situation. But yeah, everything has gotten more expensive, particularly PG&E has really been brutal this year with gas prices the way they are, natural gas prices. So yeah, keeping the cost to the consumer down is very important.
Thank you, Director. One of the things that we'll include when we prepare our number is the same charts that we created for the city's impact directly associated to landfilling costs versus the actual request that you'll get from your hauler that will include fuel, maintenance, employee wages. So those will be segregated out and it'll be easier for you to capture what is the increase associated to the tip bill increase. So we'll have that readily available for you as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
and then my last thing is, Garth, every time we get an update on the budget, it always seems like we're doing great. We're exceeding all of our expectations. Are we still doing that? Are you foreseeing, I know we have a lot of costs coming up. And are you basically saying that, or are you guys saying that we foresee all of these adventures that we want to get involved in? And at some point, we're going to have to produce more cash to make those things go. Is that what you're kind of saying? That we're fat now, but we may not be when we start applying ourselves to the, our other little thing we have with Monterey One Water, and other aspects.
Yeah, that's definitely good information to have. And yes, we do consider that.
Okay.
We're looking at not only just the regular operating expenses, but also the capital expenses, which that
Right.
projects can be very harsh.
Because we feel pretty good after, you give us a review and then, we have a backup amount of money in case of contingency fund and stuff like that. So we feel we just, don't want to wake up one morning and find out that, oh, we have no money,
Well,
We didn't
as you
think
know,
ahead.
we established a couple more restricted cash reserves at the beginning of this fiscal year. So we'll probably add to those at the end of this fiscal year. To continue on with the policy that we established last year. So we are keeping up with our reserve cash balances, and we're also meeting our other obligations. I look at it, we got two really big obligations every year. Number one, we have to meet our bond debt ratio covenant every year, which we do pretty comfortably. And number two is we have a 20% cash operating reserve requirement, as was established by the board some number of years ago. So those are the two things we absolutely positively have to be on top of, particularly the bond thing. We can't let that slide at all. And it's kind of reflected when you just look at the overall operating results, the bottom line. You see that we're meeting our bond ratio fairly comfortably. We've got our 20% cash operating reserve, but then there's also all the other projects that are coming up and are going on where you are also considering. So We're staying on top of all that stuff.
Well, we had some bumps in the road too with the silver solar, where the thing goes to China, where we couldn't sell stuff. It was just incredible. I guess we're kind of a little bit out of the woods for that thing.
We're still getting hammered on that a little bit, and that, prices are still down. And the one that's the real kicker is the mixed paper, where we actually now have to pay somebody to come and take it. We don't get any revenue for that. So, but that could flip around as it has.
Right.
It's been positive, now it's negative again.
All right.
It's about 2.5 million less than what it was last year, so roughly.
Something like that.
On it, got a lot of stuff to work on, but mainly the contribution of sharing that we're started. There's some huge points that we'll get. Last year, we had a proposed number that we came up with finance and discussion. That proposed number will be used in advance to approval for Pebble Beach Community Services District, because they putting that onto the tax roll. So that would be worst case scenario. They may have to work magic if we decide it's going to be less than that number. I think it's highly unlikely that it'll be higher than you guys would approve something higher than what we're requesting. But it does start setting the stage for haulers to start readily preparing their request to the municipality, what their increase will be. One of the components will be our disposal component, and the rest of the components will live and exist with the hauler. Again, fuel, equipment, increases in any of those items will revert to an additional request coming to the city on the hauler request.
And those pass-through costs and all that are set by contract, by
Yes.
agreement, and the TAC committee reviews that as well?
The TAC will get an opportunity to see it, because we definitely want to share with all the haulers is here the potential number. As we start preparing our draft and our reviews and our finals, it leads up to it, but they wouldn't be able to wait until May or June to put in the request to their cities, because there is timeline in those requests. So we will prematurely put a projected number out there, and with the disclosure that it's based on the board approval at some point. But it's to give them a good advantage starting point to make their request without them circling back to ReGen saying, you're the holdup of my request to the city. Last year worked very well when we came up with a number. We felt it was very tangible, and that was a number we finally approved at the end of the day. So I think if we do our work well enough, we'll have that number pretty soon here that we can circumvent with the team to get a precursor on that one item.
So if there's not anything else, do we have to go to public? I guess not. General manager communications.
Yes, I have a few. We are soliciting an invitation to bid for module 7 phase 3 excavation and liner. Sealed bids will be received at Monterey Regional Waste Management District office until 3:30 AM on February 27th of 2023. This is a public works construction project. This project includes alternate engineer design liner systems. As a result of not encountering natural clay materials in the phase 2 excavation last August that were necessary for the prescriptive liner system. The project budget will need to be revised significantly as a result of these changes. Staff will provide an update at the February board meeting and the March committee meetings as well on module 3, phase 3. We have a recognition for the employee donations. That was through the raffles and items that we really talked up. We received an invitation from Interim, one of the charitable organizations that received funds from the employees for the Christmas fundraiser, and invited us to submit a special message for a plaque that will go on the donor wall of their new Sunrose apartment complex. The apartment complex will house adults with mental disabilities and support independent living and self-sufficiency. This is a great honor since the donation was made by the employees and not from district funds. We asked for the social committee to select an inscription on behalf of the employees. The inscription that will be added to the donor wall will be, some people will look for a beautiful place, others make a beautiful place, Hazrat Khan. That will represent our employees and their contribution, which is, it's pretty significant. We just did the fundraiser in December. They're already going to start construction of this complex, and we get the honor putting an inscription that represents our contribution. So Ms. Berta and all the social committee and all the employees that represent ReGen and their kind hearts at times that have been difficult. We've had high inflation, we've had rain, we've had a whole bunch of stir of items. And we'll continue to add employees to go forward. And I think I feel honored to represent the workforce that really makes this happen every day.
Would you read that inscription again?
Some people look for a beautiful place, others make a place beautiful.
Nice.
Edible food recovery thank you letters we received from the Salvation Army for the edible food recovery efforts. And this is a representation of all the member agencies contributing. And so I felt it was important to share the letter from the Salvation Army. You know, this year, while so many more people have faced unexpected hardship due to disaster, sickness, and joblessness, your continued kindness is the hope that will comfort those in need during the holidays and the upcoming year. So in those inscriptions, I thought it was very important is what we continue to do. And this is the result of 1383 in the edible food recovery component that we still get acknowledged, and it shouldn't be acknowledgement only with ReGen Monterey, but it should be acknowledged of all the member agencies that are contributing to the efforts around edible food recovery. And a direct beneficiary has been the Salvation Army in the title. Another great representation of our organization. The last item I have is we're going to do landfill trial work shift. And we have several 4-day, 10-hour shift assignments that will be used by landfill ops department on a trial basis. The landfill operates 11.5 hours per day, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. The new assignments will be used on a second shift of the day and will help provide better coverage for Saturdays with adding one additional HEO because of the schedule changes. We expand the HEO bandwidth by adding 2 hours per shift for landfill maintenance work and project work. And after rain like that, those extra hours are beneficial for our operating costs and expenses. It'll help us reduce overtime. Last year, landfill ops incurred about 108,000 in overtime, and the HEOs worked about 1,660 hours in overtime. So it's something that we're trying to minimize by incorporating these shift change. It'll support a better work-life balance for 2 consecutive days off for the landfill equipment operators. Currently, some have a Sunday off and then a day off in the middle of the week, which they're not too good days. They haven't bought too much about it, but I think it's a great opportunity for us to make sure that there's an expectation of getting 2 days off in a row for working 6. The trial period will be 6 to 12 months. And we'll look for outcomes and try to realize whether the efforts are actually coming to fruition, or are we going backwards on it, and do we have to reevaluate? It gives us a pivot point to revert back to the existing schedules that exist today. The union was informed and given an opportunity to comment, and we're going to offer these shifts on a seniority basis, and we're pretty close to implementation. I think we want to implement this Monday coming, and we'll start seeing the gain and seeing if it results in good judgment to make the shift changes. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
Any questions?
No. Comment on, I mean, the 410s, always was a good one, and most people I know who work it. And I appreciate it, so hopefully it pays off.
And it's quite interesting, the people that stayed on the 510s were the tenured employees. They have the morning shift, Monday through Friday. It's good. 5/8, take that back, 5/8.
Yeah, no, POA, I mean, I think they're all like on 410s or something like that, they don't know what it is, so. I was in construction, I don't know if they work for me, but anyway. Future agenda items? Nope. So I guess we go to closed session.
The pension committee came back in open session at 11:37, having taken up the agenda item of the negotiations with the employees. The matter was discussed at length by the committee. No reportable action was taken. There being no further business, the chair adjourned the meeting.